My name is Jason S. Seafong. Welcome back to the Vanilla Club podcast. Today's guest is Sam Eng, an indie game developer based in none other than the Big Apple, New York City. He makes games by himself on his laptop in Brooklyn coffee shops, running on pure drip coffee and creative obsession. His second most recent game is called Skate Story, which has an impressive 85 on Metacritic and a perfect 10 on Steam. It's been called a work of art, and after spending some quality time with this amazing game on the Switch 2, I don't think that's an overstatement. Skate Story puts you in the role of a glass demon trapped in the underworld. The only way out is to reach the moon and swallow it whole. But what it actually is something a little harder to pinpoint. Is it Dante's Inferno filtered through some vapourwave aesthetics? Certain rabbit holes with hat tips to ancient folk tales? Maybe a little Mid-Autumn Festival and Chang'e in there too? I'm not sure, but it looks fantastic, and it's got a soundtrack by the incredible Blood Cultures that hits like nothing else. Check it out. Sam built every piece of this game, the code, the 3D models, the animations, the whole world. And he did it solo from a 16-inch MacBook Pro. We talk about what it actually takes to build a game from scratch. Sorry, this isn't a game review. What we're doing is getting into what drives Sam and how he decided to undertake such a crazy, monumental task of solo game development. We talk about the economy and minimalism embedded in skate culture and its no pads ethos. And we have a genuinely enjoyable conversation about gaming as a medium and why it deserves to be taken seriously and what it can teach kids about agency. And of course, we have to make note of the difference between fast food gaming and something that can actually nourish you. We hope you enjoy. Let's go. Sam, thank you for taking the time. I mean, let's just jump straight into it. I love the game.
Thanks,
You've
man.
got 85% on Metacritic. You've got 10 out of 10 on Steam. I mean, is it a video game? Is it a work of art? Is it some abstract conceptual journey that we're going on? I don't know. It defies all convention. But let's hear it from you. I mean, what is Skate Story?
Well, Skate Story is a video game where you play as a glass demon skating down into the underworld. And yeah.
It's awesome because, I was playing Broforce with my son, and we were looking at Devolver, and we were thinking, okay, what's the next game that we get? Because we love Devolver. And we're like, okay, Cult of Lamb, do we do Gunbrella? And then all of a sudden, Skate Story pops up. And we're like, I didn't know anything about it. So I downloaded it and I just got into it. And then boom, the visuals, the sound, the atmosphere. I mean, not knowing anything about it, I was like, oh my God, this game is like speaking to me. For someone who has always, I'm like a kid of the 90s. The only games that we had were like, it was roguelite gaming. Like you had a single life and you had to make it all the way through. There was no sort of like autosave. And it was all about the moment, you go in there, you have one shot and you just go through this thing. So the gaming experience, I think, for kids of the 90s is very different, I think, from people who are used to autosave and all of these, features that, lead to dipping in and dipping out. So when I experience Skate Story, I'm just thinking, wow, this game it's got everything, and the Blood Cultures is just an amazing.
They're incredible.
They're incredible. So let me just back up and just ask you, like, okay, so you work on, is it Zarvot?
Oh yeah, that was my first game. Yeah.
That was your first game. Okay, so what are the sort of like building blocks that, you know, a game designer, an indie game designer like yourself have to start with in order to do something as monumental as building a game by yourself?
Yeah, I mean, first you got to have the crazy idea that you actually want to do it, right? Which is
Yeah.
kind of crazy. And then just like the core idea or genre. So like with Darvot, I was really inspired by this game called Nidhogg. I was like, oh wow, this is so fun to play with my friends. I want to make like a little tank cube version of that, and then that became Zarvot. Just kept developing it, and then Skate Story came. So I finished Zarvot, and then Skate Story was like, oh, I want to make a vaporwave skateboarding game, and then just kind of I learned a lot from my first game, which was a lot more basic. So I was able to use a lot of those skills in making Skate Story, and kind of had a bit of an idea of how a game is made.
Because it's like, for any of us who play, you know, game like blockbuster big studio games, right? Like, the assumption that we have as simply gamers who don't know how the sausage is made is that you have different departments. There's like art, there's this, there's that, there's that. And everyone is communicating, everyone is coordinating. There's like project managers between every department. And somehow a game is made, somehow it's debugged, somehow it is published. The idea of creating a game on your own, like, help us understand all of the different pieces that have to come together to be able to produce something even close to the level of sophistication in Skate Story.
Yeah, I mean the core part is really just programming and art. So like right now, nowadays, programming lift is a lot. So you need a lot of programming power to essentially ship a game. And then the arts part, of course, is all the art assets that you need, which are the 3D models, the animations, or the 2D assets like art and 2D animations, as well as the music and the sound effects and all these different files come together. And then it all comes together into one program that is usually a game engine. So nowadays there are many different game engines. And I used one called Unity, and it takes in all these files, and then you write code, or you essentially link all these files. Like, in my case, I made the 3D model for the skater, as well as all the animations for the skateboard. And then writing all this code and making the models for the world. I hook everything up inside of the game engine, which has a lot of custom tooling that you have to program to bring all those things together. Play the music at the correct time, play the sound effects at the correct time, while reading the controller at the right time, right? So if the user presses this button, it does this, it changes these things, moves these models around. And then that's essentially the whole game.
Yeah, well, when you put it that way, I mean, it sounds pretty simple, but I know enough to
There's
know
a
that
lot in there.
each and
Yeah.
every part, right? Because this was like I mean, it's hard to say when it began, right? Because the inspiration probably, was already underway while you were doing Zarvot, right? So it's like a 5-year sort of sequence, and I'm sure there were starts and stops along the way, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Because you mentioned like in the credits you thank the barista, right? Which
That's
is a
true. Yeah.
cool little, because, like, where were you doing this? Like, give us a sense of, all right, you're in New York City, right? Like, how is that actually happening? Like, what is your actual, like, workstation? Are you literally doing this on a laptop? Like, like walking through different cafes around like Greenwich Village?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I do it all. I prefer using laptops. But I do sometimes plug it in at home and I have a second screen. But a lot of times I will work directly on my laptop, and then it's just a 16-inch MacBook Pro. I've kind of gone through a couple of them, and yeah, I just love waking up and going to the cafe and just working there until my battery dies, and then that's my like work day. Uh,
That's amazing.
yeah,
That's amazing. I mean, I went to NYU, so I mean,
you can imagine it.
a while back, but I can just see that. I can picture you, like I imagine you with a hoodie, maybe with your skateboard tucked under your arm, like you're probably ordering what would you be ordering? A macchiato,
No, black
matcha,
coffee.
black coffee.
Just get the black coffee, dude.
Get
I
the
get
black
the drip
coffee.
coffee.
The
Yeah.
drip coffee, sweet. And then just like coding and doing art. So like, what are the sort of literary influences, because the story about like eating the moon, is there a Chinese, mid-autumn festival? That's what I read into it when I first see it, not going any deeper than that, but there's like a bit of Dante's Inferno, sort of almost Alice in Wonderland. What are the sort of literary influences that you played with this game?
Yeah, I would say the structure is definitely Dante's Inferno, just in terms of like the layers of hell. So I actually read through this like somewhat modern translation of Dante's Inferno. I tried some of the other translations, but like it was really hard to go through. There was a more modern one, like released
Mhm.
in like the 2000 somethings, which was like a lot more readable, and I went through that, and that was a big influence. A lot of the imagery was influenced by like different folk tales that I would just read it on, like, honestly just on Wikipedia, just
Mhm.
like going through folk tales. I remember there was one about like the dragon who like ate the moon. I don't even remember, like, I don't remember who wrote it. It's one of those, like, no one knows who wrote it.
Yeah.
It's like a folk tale, but I would just like read these on Wikipedia. Um,
That's-
you know what I mean? Like, and then a lot of like just looking at paintings through like through the internet, honestly. And I would go through Wikipedia. I love Wikipedia. Just like Wikipedia
Me too. Yeah.
has like Wikimedia Commons,
Hmm.
which is
Hmm.
cool. So they have like a bunch of images, and you can just search by image. And then I would look at like like different etchings of like different depictions of hell. So that was really useful for me, of just like looking at the pictorial maps that people would make for like what they thought hell looked like, right? And like different paintings of like different scenes and things like that. Um, so that was a really big reference point for me. And then as far as the aesthetic, I really tried to reference like, skate videos in terms of like the composition and like how skateboarding is like, shown in video, as well as just like um, kind of like film, like kind of an old like film aesthetic, but then trying to take that into like sort of a modern world. So not just like a lo-fi filter, but like kind of like what about like the colors and like the sharpness and all that stuff can I bring into the game, that doesn't just look like a camcorder, but it's kind of like has that vibe, right? Um, yeah. So
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think the game is so effective at, you're juxtaposing a lot of different themes and visually, um,
yeah,
like
thanks,
the
man.
the 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 only criticism I'd have really is just like, I didn't get to skate enough. Like I guess for some of us who've played Tony Hawk Pro Skater, it's like, there's a bit of that free roaming. But I mean, can you imagine? I'm just thinking the amount of effort that you would have put into a single visual or one of those, portals, and then we go through, and then it's gone, and then that's it's so ephemeral in that way, and yet there's been so much effort that's put into that one instance.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it does kind of suck. But like that was sort of the the driving part of the game. Like that was the whole point, right? It's just like I wanted that motion of like a skateboarding game where you just keep going on and on.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think it's for someone who doesn't skate, right, but who can appreciate the game dynamics and who considers himself a gamer through and through, right? I enjoy many different genres of gaming, and I have a son now who's getting into it, and it forces me also to think about what do I pass on to him in terms of the love of gaming, and
Yeah.
how do I help potentially steer him towards what I would consider more sort of like, or less fast food gaming, right?
Mm-hmm.
Better storytelling, some type of narrative element, something where there's a challenge, and I think you with this game, you really take us through some of the tricks, like I'm doing I'm trying to get the ollie right. I'm trying to do certain elements. There's a skill component to it, as I'm also enjoying this pure aesthetic and acoustic sort of joy of being in this world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So hats off to you from the standpoint that it's just, not only is it just cool, right? Which of course it is, right? And how you convinced Blood Cultures to be like, I don't know, headliners on this project.
Oh yeah.
Is just amazing, I mean, tell us a little bit about your relationship with them and how you connected with them.
Yeah, I mean, I was just a big fan of their music. And they were gaining popularity when I just like found their music somehow online, and I was like a big fan. And I just finished my first game, and then I just like emailed them off like Bandcamp, like contact contact support or whatever for whatever. I don't know. And I was just like, hey, like and I think it went to the record label they were on.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, I'm making a game. Like, do you want to like work together? And they were like, after a couple of weeks, I guess they responded to me. They were like, oh, sure, like let's meet up. So I met up with them at a coffee shop in like the Lower East Side, like Irving Place, kind of close to NYU.
Yeah.
And then they were like, yeah, let's do it. Like this sounds cool. Let's
That's
do a game
amazing.
together. It was super chill. Like our vibes matched, and they were down for it. Like it was cool to work local, So
Yeah. They're in New Jersey, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of in the area.
In the area, yeah. Because the first 4 tracks on the OST are just like, each one of them is bangers. I mean, banger after banger.
It's
right?
crazy. It's insane.
It's insane. It's insane, and then I'm like in the background, like doing that ding, 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 it just draws you in, and, to do something original, right?
Yeah. It's so hard.
It's so hard, right? Like take us through like some of the steps and the coordination. Like how does that, you have it in your mind, right?
Yeah.
How do you communicate that to somebody who's working in a totally different medium?
I just sent them like videos and like some very loose things. I trusted them like 100%. And then we actually worked very asynchronously. So they would send me some demos. I would send them some like screenshots and videos and stuff. And it would just kind of work like apart, honestly. Even though they were local, like we would only meet up like once a year, honestly. Just funny. And they didn't even play the game until like years in. And then they had no way to play it. So I lent them my Steam Deck. I was like, here, you play it. They were like, wait, this is cool. I don't know what game this was. But yeah, like it was very asynchronous. And I just trusted them. I was just like, just make whatever and I'm gonna place them. So I think the thing that worked really well was they were very, very friendly in terms of licensing, like their
Mhm.
label as well. The label was super cool. So we paid essentially like to license their entire catalog. And then I was able to place all the tracks wherever I wanted, and they were very loose with like if I wanted to change the tracks, So I did a bunch of things to try to fit it into the game as much as possible, and then also sequence them within the whole story of Skate Story to like make it like really really flow. So I think a big part of that was like the trust that we had in each other, of just like I trusted them to just give me the best music that they could based on how they saw what it was, and I didn't really give them that many notes. I was just like, "Well, can you make a boss track?" And then, like, some other types of tracks. Just, like, try to set, like, the overall, of what I need, but it was up to them to just go for it, and then they trusted me to use the tracks however I wanted, essentially. So it was a very, like, very asynchronous but trusting relationship, which I'm very, very grateful for.
And we're the beneficiaries of as the gamers who are enjoying the game,
That's right.
because there's so many creative decisions, that go into that. Like,
Yeah.
you think about even the gift shop. I mean, that little interlude has its own little,
Yeah.
music, and it has its own mood, and like playing the game, going to the gift shop was like, I needed that sort of break, because it was intense out there. Do you know what I mean? And I wasn't quite getting the timing right on some of the tricks. And then you let us go into the gift shop, different music, different mood. And I thought you did that. That was pretty cool. That was pretty cool.
Nice. That's good.
You
Yeah,
know,
there was many different little gift shops.
and the pigeon,
The
the
pigeon,
pigeon,
yeah, yeah.
the pigeon. I mean, I think we would take that as like it's a little hat tip to Tony Hawk, maybe.
That's right. I mean, he asked you to find the floating letters, right? So,
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Like, what are when you're doing this yourself,
mhm.
are there times where you're thinking, "Oh, okay, if only I had like a team of like two, to share some of this, or maybe I could move faster, or in the next iteration, there's these other things I could do if I scale up, some production capabilities." Or do you look at it as, well, because there's so many tools that can make a single person like able to work so fast now, that who knows, maybe the capability of one single person as a game developer, like, we don't even know what the limits are.
I mean, I do think the second part is true, um, but that's not the reason why I prefer working mostly solo. Like, it's true that the tools are so much better nowadays, but, like, no matter what, if you have a studio with people, like, you have more work output.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just a fact of just, like, you have, you know, 6 people in the studio, you're gonna maybe you won't get 6 times the output because there has to be communication, but you'll get more than one person's output almost no matter what. Um, I think for me personally, it's more just, like, the freedom and, like, the less friction as well as less overhead for me,
Hmm.
as well as, like, not needing to, like, convince other people of my
Yeah.
ideas. Like, I've worked on teams, I worked with other people, and I enjoy that dynamic a lot.
Hmm.
Like, I think that's very fun, and it has its own benefits of, like, bouncing ideas and, like, you'll always m and a lot of times you can make something that's, like, bigger than the sum of its parts, right, in teams.
Yeah.
I think for me personally, the thing I really like doing is just not having to check in with anyone,
Yeah.
like, not
Right.
having to convince anyone, not
Yeah.
having to, like, argue for what I want and being like, "No, that's a good idea," or, "No, that's not a good idea," and I give up. I give up that other person's input. Like, sometimes I work on teams and, like, they have such good ideas, like, "Oh, I never would have thought of that." So, there's definitely a lot of downsides to working solo, um, and, you don't have, like, the benefit of, like, "Oh, I wanna show up to help," to work on the team and the camaraderie. But on the upside, I have, lower burn rate. I don't provide for another person's livelihood.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that part is very stressful for me. Like
Mm,
when I'm like,
mm.
oh no, I control this person's like livelihood, God forbid they, I have to let them go or something. So I think for me, and I'm not saying that like I do think it's a very valuable thing, and maybe later on in my life, that's what I want to do, like
Yeah.
start a studio and stuff. But I think at this point in my life, I'm more just like I like this freedom of just like low burn rate, right, and just like making all the decisions. The downside, of course, is that you know, I mean, there's a lot of downsides,
Right.
but yeah,
No, definitely. I mean, as someone who like I love gaming, I also have an Asian parent.
oh yeah, me too.
I think we have to ask the question, like, what do your parents think about your career choice?
Yeah, I think my mom is proud of me now. I think I'm very lucky to have a mother who she was not a tiger mom or anything. She would always tell me that, honestly. She'd be like, "Well, I'm not a tiger mom." And
Okay.
I'd be like, "Yeah, that's true." So my mom, she's loosened up a lot over the years, just like knowing that like, oh hey, like the thing that's most important in life. And she would tell me this now, just like the most important thing is just to like enjoy your life, because you only get one life, and like as long as you're doing what you want. So
Yeah.
I think over time she like softened up, and she was just maybe not softened up, but like more just like understood, right? That like,
Mhm.
oh, this is what my son wants to do. And he is making a living. So let him do it. Like it seems like he's happy doing that. So I think that part does feel good that my mom is proud of me in terms of what the thing is.
Yeah, for sure. Because, and you said like she's proud of you now, right? Which implies that there was a time where
Yeah,
I
there's
guess
a
maybe
time
it's
where she's like doesn't know what's going
the
on,
career
and
path is not as clear as, I don't know, accountancy or dentistry or anything else,
exactly.
right? And I think having an Asian parent sometimes it's like like I have a lot of respect for that. Like now that I'm older, like the thing is that it comes from a place of love and it comes from a place of care, that it's sort of like, why are you taking all these risks? Or why would you do something that is like so untrodden of a path? But the fact that you've established that and you can say, listen, it's actually kind of working out, and you got a response from mom. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
A positive
Yeah,
response.
because at the end of the day, like parents care about you, right?
Yeah.
So it's like they're like they just want you to survive in the world.
Yeah.
So essentially by showing like, "Hey, I'm surviving in the world," then she's like, "Oh, well,
Yeah.
then it's good."
Yeah. Exactly.
That's where
Exactly.
the love, that's where that
Yeah.
hard love comes from of just like, "Oh, I'm scared my kid's not gonna survive in the world. That's why I have to,
Yeah. Yeah.
be mean on them." Like, so I think that shift of seeing like, well, he can survive in the world, I think was, probably the thing that helps. And then,
Yeah.
more Western ideas of just
Yeah.
like following your dreams and
Yeah.
being individual, right? Which is more Western that
Yeah. Yeah.
she's adopted.
So mom is from Hong Kong?
Mhm.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So we share that Hong Kong connection
Nice.
too.
Yeah.
That's so have you spent time in Hong Kong? Have do you sort of visit family or,
Not
relatives
really.
or?
I mean, I've been there.
Yeah.
I visited. I can like mostly understand Cantonese, right?
Okay.
Yeah, but I can't I wouldn't be able to really like fit into Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, everyone there speaks English anyway, so
Yeah. 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 Because there's a skate culture in Hong Kong. I
oh
I
yeah,
grew
yeah.
up I grew up sort of most of my formative years in Hong Kong. And I knew some skaters, and I actually have a friend,
Yeah.
Adriel Chan, who's doing like a whole like skate line. Check him out,
Oh,
852,
cool.
and he's like totally buttoned up corporate, but he has this like alter ego as a skater,
Mhm.
and it's a cool subculture. Like I guess I'm like physically it was always challenging for me. Like anytime I got on a board, and I think let's also be real. There's also an intimidation factor. I think the fact that
Mm.
talk to us a little bit about that skate culture about like not wearing pads. Like it's just a thing. Like I think it's kind of like a where does that come from? Why is it? I mean, because I'm looking at it like as a parent and I'm thinking clearly some kids would benefit from more protective headwear or padding. But it just seems like this is deeply embedded in the culture.
Yeah. There's a lot of reasons. I think the top reason is maybe because it's not cool,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
There are some people trying to change that, like Andy
Okay.
Anderson famously always wears a helmet,
Okay.
which is super cool. Like he's also an incredible skater, and he always wears a helmet, so he's known for that. And then also vert skaters, like
Mhm.
on big ramps and stuff, they
Yeah.
almost always wear helmets and pads because of how dangerous it is. Street skaters, on the other hand, very, very rarely wear helmets and pads. And the reason is mostly because it's not that dangerous and it doesn't look cool.
Yeah.
So it is true that street skating is still extremely dangerous, and I have hurt myself many times, but it is not that dangerous, if that makes sense. Like you aren't going off a big ramp,
Yeah.
so you're not really falling much, especially if you're not doing stairs or anything.
Okay.
Like you'll fall from maybe a jumping height, but you won't fall from like so once you're comfortable enough on the board, it is essentially safer than a bike because you're going much slower than a bike and you're more comfortable. So those are the reasons behind like you don't see street skaters wearing pads or helmets and stuff. But
Yeah.
I would obviously not condone anybody, and I would never, ever, ever look down on somebody for wearing protective equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But that's where I mean you can see some of that culture in the like the mantra of you're a demon made of glass and pain, and you must skate. I mean it's there. Let's face it. There is some element of danger, right? That
yeah.
that
I mean, even
drives
with
it,
pads, yeah,
even
even
with
with
pads.
helmets and everything, like skateboarding is scary. Like no matter what, like everyone, you can wear pads and you can still fuck up your wrist, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, like you get on the
Totally.
board and you're still eat shit, even with
Yeah.
pads. And it's just like skateboarding, a lot of it has a fear factor of just
Hmm.
like, I'm scared of this thing. Um, and why am I doing it? Right. So I think that vulnerability is, you know, front and center in terms of the metaphor of just like, why am I skateboarding? Well, I have to because, even though I'm made of this material that it really should not be skateboarding. So there's something to that. I don't know, like, I don't know if the game really gets that across. Like, I don't know if you've played through the whole thing or you kind of.
I've gotten about halfway through. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So like there's a sequence in the game which essentially is sort of like the breakdown of the player that kind of addresses like sort of his relationship with skateboarding a bit and then like trying to find that back, so to speak.
Yeah.
So there is, yeah, like that's a big theme of the game that is explored within it.
Definitely, definitely. And I think that vulnerability, I mean, again, the setting, right? You are in hell. And I think the visuals of the glass and the shattering of the glass every time, I mean, it reinforces this.
Yeah.
this fragility, right?
Yeah.
And then you take it into the real world. I mean, that's why I'm just curious about the real world skateboarding culture, and that I think you helped us understand it very well, in terms of, well, there is a sort of cool factor, there's a sort of like tenderness to it too, in the sense that, well,
Kind of restricts your movement a bit.
yeah, yeah. It's one of those subcultures. It's so, I don't know. I mean, if we actually had to think about how, influential skate culture has been in so many other subcultures, like, I mean, I think in fashion, in language, but, you as a skater, I mean, that seems like that's pretty core to kind of your walking everyday identity, right? I mean, you skate, is this something, it's not like a hobby. It's actually part of who you are and what you do, right?
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't always a skateboarder. Um, when I was a kid, I did not. I mean, my mom bought me like this like really cheap, like, dollar store skateboard that like barely worked. And it was kind of fun, but it was like too hard, so I gave up. So I actually started skateboarding again, like actually skateboarding when I was like an adult.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when I sort of became a skater. Like I just like got the skateboard and I just put in the hours and learned how to use it as my main transport. And then now I just like kind of skate everywhere. Like that's essentially my bike is just skateboarding. So
Wow. So you're skateboarding through like Manhattan, just like
yeah.
zipping around. Are you going between traffic, or how does that actually work? Are you allowed to go on the sidewalk?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you can kind of skate everywhere. I mean, technically, skateboards are not allowed on the road, like legally, but I mean, no one really cares. So skateboards are categorized on the legal definition as a toy in New York City, which is, I mean, also technically electric bikes aren't allowed at all, which is funny. But like with a skateboard, you can essentially kind of skate wherever you want. Just don't hit anyone, obviously, and it don't scare people. But yeah, you can like go on sidewalks. I usually try to stick to the bike lanes.
Mm-hmm.
If there's no bike lanes, you could kind of go in traffic, and you're very thin as a
Mm-hmm.
skateboarder,
Yeah.
like even thinner than a bike, right? Like bikes still have the handlebars. Like a
Mm-hmm.
skateboarder, you can even just like really slim in there. So like when it's like bumper to bumper traffic, you could easily just weave in and out of the cars. Um, and then yeah, you can go up curbs once you learn how to ollie. You can just kind of go wherever you want, honestly. It's just amazing.
Yeah. That is amazing. And you do it all without a helmet.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Which is like,
Wow.
yeah, I don't go that fast. Like
Yeah.
I go slower than a bike. Um, and then if it's too gnarly,
Yeah.
you could really quickly jump off, pick up the skateboard, and now you're just a pedestrian.
Yeah.
Now you're
Yeah.
just walking. Now you take the train, right? Now you
And
take
now
the
you take the
bus.
train. Yeah, it's true.
You can even get a
True.
city bike if you wanted to.
Yeah.
And
But try doing that with a bike
yeah, you can't.
in at rush hour. It's
You
impossible.
gotta like
Maybe
find a
Sunday morning,
yeah.
but
The worst
wow.
part is like, you're going to meet your friends, you're going somewhere, and then you're like, oh shoot, I gotta lock my bike, and you gotta like look
Yeah,
around.
exactly.
With skateboard, you just take it with you. It's a piece of wood, right? Like it's like this with wheels on it. It's just like
Yeah, that's amazing.
it's
That's
incredible.
amazing. It is amazing. I mean, it's an amazing subculture. I have a lot of respect for it. I love the sort of like aesthetic aspect of it.
Yeah,
It's just a single board, and
yeah,
then you've got four wheels, and it's got two little curves. So again, you can manipulate it a little bit
yeah.
better, right? You can get more leverage on it.
It's very
But
beautiful
that's pretty
shape.
much it. It is a beautiful shape, right?
It's
Um,
beautiful. It's simple. It's like feels so elemental. Like one of the big things that I was kind of obsessed with, like when I first started making this game, was like how simple the skateboard is. It's just like everything on it is like so elemental. It's like you got the wood, yeah, like this like metal stuff that like holds the wheel, and the wheel's like kind of this like plastic urethane thing, right? And it's just like that's all you kind of have, and then you got the sandpaper on top, which is like
Yeah.
glass like stuck to paper, and it's just like feels very basic in a way. Like I don't know, like compared to something like a bike, which feels very like mechanical with a lot
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah,
things
yeah,
going
yeah.
on and just like gears and shifts. And don't get me wrong, I love bikes, like they're super cool. And I love that it has all these like little knobs you could twiddle and it's like so many different things. But like something about the skateboard to me is like so beautifully simple. Just like this little piece of wood it's, with
Yeah,
some
I
wheels.
think you really hit it right there, right? It's that elemental, right? It's like literally if you narrow down the simplest shape to convey some entity from point A to point B. I mean, maybe a surfboard is even simpler, but you still need wave motion, right?
You
Because you
need
don't
the
have the
water.
wheels.
Yeah.
You need the water. But other than a surfboard,
Yeah.
a skateboard is, and these are like, it's like flat and then the wheel, and that's it. It's the most basic set of shapes that can convey people.
Yeah, no, that's true. I actually did not think about that. Of just like, yeah, it's just like a platform, platform for
Yeah,
moving people.
yeah,
It's like
yeah,
so
exactly.
simple. Yeah.
Exactly. I really, like I was saying about Devolver, that publisher. I mean, I think it's probably for, I don't know if other people kind of follow some publishers, but for me, I played, I don't know, quite a few of their games, and I think the curatorial ability that they have, the curatorial insight that they have with working with the indie outfits and different creatives. I mean, they have just, it's just some really cool stuff. I was playing Gunbrella earlier
Oh
too, and it's
yeah.
just,
Uh-huh.
just kind of, I don't know, just I like some pixel art stuff. And I mean, you just get swept into it, just like your game, you get swept into it. And I'm really going to like follow your gaming career, because this game, if this is what you can do, like as your second game and like just by yourself, and you can involve all of these different elements and wrap people up like to the degree that you do, I mean, you've got a really, really bright career ahead of you. And and
I hope
and I
so.
hope, no, I just like, I mean, again, I'm just speaking like basically as a fan,
Thanks, man.
and
I
and
appreciate it.
and I'm speaking as a fan, and I'm speaking, I guess, like I take an interest in this because I see my son, right?
Mm,
And
hmm.
I don't want him just like gorging on Call of Duty, like that's fun. Don't get me wrong. But Call of Duty is like, it's like allowing yourself to have KFC or McDonald's like once, I don't know, a month or something. But for us gamers to be like, I think for us to coherently say to people like, no, this is a valuable like medium. Like I'd rather play a game than watch a movie,
Hmm.
right? For the limited
Yeah.
time that I have, a movie is just like one dimensional. It's like I'm receiving information. The game is giving me this, but then it's challenging me to do stuff. So the extent to which we have games like yours, I think it's great news for gamers all around the world who want to say, listen, hey, this is a great medium.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I do think that gaming as a medium is just like still very, very, very young, and it's not taken seriously as, you know, like a serious medium, which is crazy to me because it's like such an expansive medium. Like I always think about how one video game can contain every single book in existence, can contain, albums, can contain movies. Like you can have a whole game about like watching different movies. You have a whole game about like, reading books or rating albums or, like all these other mediums that are like taken seriously. So the fact that, and I'm not saying those mediums are any lesser. I actually think that like every medium has, especially even the constrained ones, are super, super beautiful. Like even just the medium of creating album art, which is like a subsection of visual art, but a cross section with like music is like in itself such an amazing medium that's like more limited. But what I mean is like the fact that video games are such an expansive medium that can contain so many things, and for the general populace to take video games unseriously and to see it as like this juvenile thing, right, is is sad. I think it's fair because if you look at the general corpus of like video games, it's like, oh well, it's like 18-year-old teenage boy plays Call of Duty
Yeah. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
FIFA, and that's like the general view of video games, which is sad, right? And I do think like one of my goals is to try to bring this medium to explore how deep it is. It's so freaking deep. It's insanely deep. Like the the very fact of it, like being, as you were saying, the input and output is like it's like more infinities than I can ever count.
Totally, totally. And I think if we can, creatively look at, more immersive experiences, like things that, like we're only scratching the surface with some of the, augmented reality stuff. Where do we go with the VR stuff? I don't know, but I mean, your game, if we measure it by like the degree to which you get into it, like I think you've done exceptionally well, because it's sort of like for busy, professionals, and a lot of gamers are, we're I think probably the highest spending gamers today are people who grew up in the 90s, my generation, right? And we're getting like a lot of retro stuff. You're getting like the pixel art stuff has gone a little bit crazy. It's like everything is getting sort of 90s retro. But I think, we're only scratching the surface, as you say, and where the different mediums, can go, how they interact together, what we do with the hardware. I think it's a pretty exciting time.
Yeah, I do think it's super exciting. And I think the medium is moving towards that route. I think there's a lot of, indies that are now kind of the bulk of what's happening in the kind of premium game space. But there is kind of still a lot of, there's like a huge attention war obviously still going on with like
Of course.
TikTok and like, like short form video content essentially, which I think is also like, I feel like back in the day, kids would play video games, and nowadays kids are scrolling TikTok, right? Which I do think things are shifting. And yeah, like I think for me personally, I still love this medium of, interactive video games. And like, I mean, I hope I can work in it for as long as I can. I don't know if that ends up me being like, the old man making making feature films, right? When no one's going to theaters, like, or someone still trying to make oil paintings. But like
Right. You're
people
like,
still make money
yeah,
making oil
yeah,
paintings nowadays,
yeah.
right? So
You're like the one ramen chef, like on some like deserted island, right? Like doing the one thing, and then you have this like tiny micro cult, followership, who comes and
yeah, well,
travels
you
and
would hope,
follows you,
yeah.
right?
Everyone, but
But
most people go to Five Guys,
they go to Five Guys, exactly. Yeah, that's it, So I mean, I think through the lens of my son, I think
Mhm.
my sort of advice, now that I have to think about it, to him is really like, if you're going to play games, you owe it to yourself to like challenge yourself. Like don't look at this as just scrolling on TikTok. Like actually find a game that's going to challenge you. Find a game that's going to, challenge some of your assumptions, that's going to give you potentially new things to think about, and maybe breaks the mold. Don't just say that I'm a X genre person. Like go cross genre, test yourself, challenge it, shake something up. That's sort of the thing. It's not, I think that one of the reasons why video games get a bad rap is that people take it as just a sort of like, it's like a release. It's like I had a long day. All right, go play video games and just like zone out. But that's not what that's not the promise of what gaming is. Like to me, the promise of gaming is it's putting yourself in this it's like extending your reality into this other world, testing some of your convictions, challenging your dexterity. Like I think there's also like a hand-eye coordination thing. Like I used to play Ridge Racer 5. And when I took my first driving test, the instructor was like, what the hell? How do you know how to drive already? I was like, well, because I play Ridge Racer. But I mean, there should be some real world crossover skills that you learn in video games. It sounds kind of crazy if you don't game, but it's like the dexterity that it takes to do certain actions in particular games. Well, why wouldn't we expect that to cross over?
No, it does. I mean, I think there was like a famous study of just like surgeons who have played like first person shooters are literally just better, like more precise using their tools. Like
that's amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing. Yeah, I totally believe it. In terms of timing, hand-eye coordination, dexterity, all of that fine motor stuff. Like we should say that, and it's not just a zone out fest, right? Like you're doing it wrong if that's what you're doing. It should have an element of challenge.
Yeah. Well, I do think it's just a medium, right? Like if you think about movies or let's say music, like depends on what you're listening to. Like if you are like no shade, but like if you're only listening to Wheels on the School Bus Go Round and Round like 24/7 in your headphones, I don't know how much you're getting from that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Like you'll like I don't like you might actually be driving yourself crazy. Like you're only listening to like I don't know, like a certain type of music that's not really stimulating you. But if you're listening to, something that can actually deeply affect you, which is different for everyone actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the type of music that resonates with you, that like maybe speaks to your issues or something you're going through, like that can really affect you and make you feel less alone, for example. So, and then that kind of music can be very healing or bring people together. But on the other hand, there can be media that doesn't help, right? Like if you're just reading conspiracy theories about, you know, that are just wrong, and that's written media. Like if you read a whole book by like, insert politician you don't
Yeah.
agree with, right? Then that's not really going to be healthy for you. But if you're reading something that can really stimulate your mind, um, that could really help. So I do think it's like based on the media. Like I kind of think if your son is playing Dark Souls, that might improve him as a person. I honestly believe that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm with you. And I think like if anyone who's watching this, sort of thinks, well, oh, there's some like AI thing and you could do this and you could come up with these things. The one look at your game and you realize the amount of quality that it contains. Like the different things, like to be able to have like combining mythology with art, with the story, with the music, with all of this. These are the type of tools that young, kids like my son, that they're going to need in this world. It's like we're moving away from this sort of like hyper specialization to people who are able to say, okay, yeah, like I'm able to think a bit laterally. right? Like who would have thought you could combine this like Dante's Inferno sort of world with something like a little bit like Sayonara Wild Hearts, and you got like a little bit of Super Hot, and you got different influences, but pulling all of these things together, right? And who knows what other influences? There's some that might be subconscious that you don't even realize, but you're able to sort of draw from these different things, pull it all together, and then the final product looks coherent. Because this game could have easily, had you not got over the line, it could have easily been like, oh, well, what is this? This is like wild. It doesn't match, because that's the point that I'm trying to make, is to do something that draws on so many disparate elements is really hard. So I want you to know that I think many people are like, wow, how did you combine all these things together? It's amazing.
Well, thanks, man. I really appreciate that. That's very kind of you to say. I don't know how to answer that. It's just
No, no, no.
like it felt obvious
I
to me, but
yeah, no, I guess what I'm saying is that, like, if someone said, okay, I'm going to make a game, and you go by step by step by step,
yeah,
there's no way you can create Skate Story. Skate Story, it's very obvious, right? Like I went to art school, right? I have training in art school. I went to Tisch. I've been around artists. Like the thinking is different. It's not like step by step by step by step by step.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can see, like there must have been in your creative process, there must have been like, oh, here, I'll file this away. Oh, okay, I might use it, I might not. And then, oh, I got this little idea, and then I'll file that away. And then I'll go this way. And then a year later, you're like, oh, wait a second, I had that little Post-it. Hey, maybe I'll use that over here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your creative process, because I can imagine it's not entirely linear.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I try to make it linear, but yeah, it doesn't work that way. I think for me, coming up with ideas is more just it's just something that I really like or want to see. And then I also have a very strong feeling of I know when I see it kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think it's both those playing together of I'm working directly in the medium, like I'm in the game engine and I'm just like trying to shape it into this thing that I want. And then it kind of showing itself to me as well
Yeah.
of like what it wants to be as well.
Yeah.
Because the medium itself has limitations of like what a player would actually be able to perform and like the medium of the screen and like
Mm-hmm.
of things, how does that interact with the controller, like all these things, like it still has limitations. And then with the music as well, of like that being a big inspiration, so drawing upon all of those, it it almost then feels like a puzzle, right? I think a lot of times it feels like a puzzle to me of just like, how do I make this? How do I get this feeling that I have? And then I'll try some stuff. Sometimes I know exactly what it is. I'm just like, oh, I know. I need this character to say this, and I want this level to look like this, and it has to be this color or this type of thing, like obstacles. And sometimes I know exactly, but then sometimes I'm just like, oh, I'm not exactly sure. And then I have to like try some stuff. And then I don't know, sometimes I'm just stuck, I guess.
Yeah.
And then I eventually get out of it just like putting stuff in the screen and then just being like, okay, that's not it. That's not it. That's not it. But every failure kind of gives you a little more information of just like what I'm looking for. Like maybe it doesn't work because it's not fun. Maybe it doesn't work because you don't see it. Maybe it doesn't work because it makes no sense, right? Maybe it doesn't work because it doesn't fit in this position in the game. So that, like the thing you were saying of just like shelving it away, like a little post-it, that also happens of just like, oh, this works, but it doesn't work right now. So I would like pull it out, and then maybe later I would put it back in somewhere else in the game. So Yeah, there's a lot of that. It's like very, I would say it's very taxing in terms of
Yeah,
like
yeah.
just like figuring things out. It feels like I'm solving like a gigantic puzzle, if that makes sense. Like it,
It makes total sense.
yeah, it really feels like a big puzzle of just like I kind like a big jigsaw puzzle. I kind of know what the final image is. I could kind of see the edges, but like all the puzzle pieces, like I'm making the puzzle pieces as I go, right? So it's tough, but it can be very rewarding.
I can imagine. I can imagine. I can imagine it can be extremely frustrating
Yeah, it could
and
be very
at
frustrating.
times probably like
No
maddening
one's telling you.
almost.
Yeah, no one's telling you the answer. You don't know if there's an answer,
Right.
actually.
You don't know if there's an answer.
You don't know. Yeah.
Right. I mean, you're like stuck on a level, but instead of us as gamers not being able to like perform the trick or something like that, there's guardrails around that, right? In your case, if you don't make it through, I mean, you could face catastrophe. The whole thing might not work, right? It's so you're on the edge, right? In a very real way.
Yeah, like there's no blueprint, right? Like
There's
at
no
least the
blueprint.
work
Yeah.
that I make, there's no blueprint. Like no one has made this game before. And like I can kind of see other games that like kind of do similar things and I can kind of figure it out, but like no one has made like a skateboarding adventure game like the one I want to make. So like figuring that out is hard. It's just like you gotta figure it out. It's a puzzle.
Yeah. For sure. So what games do you like to play?
I used to play so many more games. Nowadays, I don't really play that many games, unfortunately. I play a lot of like my friends' games. Like I have a lot of friends who are also in the industry, so I'll like help play test their games. My friend just released his game called Moves of the Diamond Hand, and it's like this really cool like adventure game where you like have these dice, and you're kind of like you upgrade your dice and all these things. So I help play test my friends' games a lot. Um, I've been playing Professor Layton. I don't know if you know
All right.
this game, but this was a game for the Nintendo DS, and I never really got to play it back then. But now I have it, and I'm playing the original Professor Layton game, which is like it's really cool. It's like a puzzle adventure game, and it has just a lot of puzzles. Like you're walking around and like you essentially save the world. You save not the world, but you save people's problems by solving these like little puzzles. And the puzzles are just like they have a lot of different ones, but they're all kind of like little brain teasers, like the type of puzzles you would find on like a back of a cereal box, right? Like it's a very fun game. I would actually recommend it. Your son might like it
Sure.
actually.
Yeah, I'll check it out. I mean, Professor Layton on the DS. I mean, DS is pretty sweet hardware.
Yeah. I
Um,
think you can play it on your phone now too. Like they have a phone
okay.
version, but I prefer the DS one just because it's the original.
Yeah. The Advance Wars on the DS was I
Ooh,
just played the hell out of that
amazing.
game.
Oh my God.
Um,
Yeah. That
I
was
don't know
such a
how
good
many
game.
hours I put into that game.
Yeah.
And
Advance
there's
Wars
something
Dual
about
Strike,
yeah,
right?
Dual
Yeah.
Strike. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I remember that one. Yeah. So
Exactly.
good.
Exactly.
Oh my
I
God.
know. But it's just one of those things. I mean, I don't know, like movies have cinematic moments, like there's like I can remember the first time I saw Rambo First Blood. I don't know why. I just remember that time. I remember who I watched it with, and I remember certain images from that movie and other movies. But there's something about it's like when my son beat Broforce last week.
Hmm.
He's gonna remember that. Like it might sound like to his mom, it might totally sound absolutely nuts, right? She doesn't game and she's a little bit apprehensive about time spent gaming. But to him, he's going to remember that. He's going to remember that moment,
Of
you
course.
know?
Yeah. And it's an achievement. It's like I did something. I didn't just I mean, not to downplay, a movie of like time spent with friends or anything,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
like you just bought the ticket and sat in the theater,
yeah.
right? Like versus like I remember when I beat yeah, when I beat games and I'm just like, oh man. I remember when I first beat the Elite Four, right? Like
You're right.
I was just like, oh my
Yeah,
God, I did it. Yeah, like it
yeah,
took me like a couple of tries.
yeah,
And I was
yeah.
like, fuck, like I got it. Like I beat the
I
Elite
know,
Four.
I
It's like
know.
this, and it's like an achievement feeling of just like, oh, I did this. Like I did it. Like
Yeah,
sure, like the game itself is designed, blah 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 blah, but like the game doesn't beat itself,
that's right.
right? It's like it's a it's like a little playground for you
Yeah.
to act, right? And I do feel like gaming is powerful just as a medium because it shows kids that agency exists,
Hmm.
almost in a tangible form, right? It's a space in which they can actually act and do things, but I do feel like most of the times, um, kids feel very passive. I know I felt kind of passive of just like, oh, I got to go to school. I'm just following all these rules, right? I'm just like, following what my parents tell me. I can't choose anything. But then in a game, you know, like for an example, you can go wherever you want. You can choose. I think that's why open world games are so popular with Western people, is because it's like you can do whatever you want. You can dress however you want. You can like, change your character, do all these things. Um, and then, what we're talking about in terms of like the difficulty thing of like the like achievement is like, I mean, not to make it super like, stereotypical, but like that's more popular in like Eastern video games of like this like difficulty, this like achievement, like from soft games of just like getting over this like giant like learning the pattern of this boss, right? I think is very powerful in terms of like helping people feel agency over their own decisions.
I, I'm with you entirely, and I think as a medium, like I'll never forget what my I took a music course at NYU, and the prof asked everyone the first day. He was like, "When was the last time you just listened to music?"
Mm.
And I was thinking, like,
Mhm.
wow. And I was thinking, and the whole class looked at it, and we were like, "I don't think I've ever done that." Like I've always been like listening to music, doing something, or like finishing some homework, or doing this or something. It's all music is always been one aspect of a multitasking thing, And I think there's many mediums that kind of, because we're lazy, they lend themselves a little bit more to that. But when you talk about gaming, I think like you talk about that agency, there's something that maybe that's I don't know. Maybe I'm just a fanboy, and it kind of, I'm like proving my own point. But I think that sometimes, it is harder to multitask when you're playing a game. So maybe by default as a medium, it's kind of like
Yeah.
multitasking resistant. So maybe that kind of goes to a bit of your point about the agency, that for maybe a kid who, I don't know, maybe you're a bit neurodivergent, or have some other things. Gaming might be like, I don't know, maybe this is too optimistic, but maybe it's a medium that can help you, with certain things. Like you can work within that world and find a certain degree of progression that is actually positive for you.
Yeah, I do believe so, and I think also just speaking a bit to the fact of like some games can be incredibly addicting to like a like horrifying degree, right? Like people will neglect real life things because of gaming. Like for example, like World of Warcraft, is kind of a famous example of just like people being so addicted to it and like foregoing life things, and that is dangerous. Um, so, and I do think that it kind of also speaks to the power of it Like, it's a very, very powerful medium, and I do think it can be used in both good ways and bad ways. So yeah, like, I do think that it is important to kind of use it for good, so as to speak, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, it can really affect how people see and like interact with the world. And I think like the reason why games like World of Warcraft or Farmville or these games are so addicting is because people want that feeling of agency. They want that feeling of achievement, of like, in the game I feel this way because it's perfectly set up to like deliver this dopamine to you. Of course, some companies are less ethical about it, right? With like loot boxes and all these things, and
Yeah.
like, just getting you to pay more money for like virtual things. And like, but the reason why I think people are so addicted to these things, to these games, is because it gives them that feeling that they're not getting in real life. So I do think that it needs to be taken in like, with care and not in a exploitative manner, right? Like draining someone's bank account and not really helping them, you know, subsist in normal world is not, that's I don't think that's a good thing for gaming at all.
That's very true. I mean, I guess the way I frame it is sort of like, we still need to eat food, but whether we choose fast food or something more nutritious, at the end of the day, you need some level of education, common sense, and some defense against that, because it's like those loot boxes. I don't know, like when I see people like on Bejeweled or something, and they're just like frenzied, or even like with FIFA, some of the like character achievements and things like that. I mean, there's a whole like gray market, a whole secondary economy trading this stuff, right? And FIFA is just one example. I mean, there's hundreds of other examples, right? And there's
Hmm.
farms like in certain countries where you can make more money farming these type of loot boxes than you can maybe, I don't know, farming, like real farming. So you're definitely right to point that out. It is crazy. It is crazy. But I mean, I think that's where the common sense of like looking at your game and just thinking like, yeah, I mean, like there is some level of trust that you have to have in the creator. There's got to be some level of trust. I think that's also where publishers like Devolver do have a role, I think, because at the end of the day, we don't have time as gamers to test every single, like before my son plays a game, I don't have time to test every single game that he plays. Like I'm going to need someone like Devolver, like they actually, play a role in screening some of this and curating it, bringing it together so that I say, oh, okay, it's got a Devolver stamp of approval. I'm okay to let my son or someone else, play it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, curation nowadays is like a big thing, and Devolver, they were a great publisher to work with. So I've nothing but good to say. Yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah, that's so cool. You know, Sam, it really like it's so great to see someone and to be able to connect with like the guy who made this amazing game. I personally think that yeah, it is a work of art. You have made a work of art here. It's like, yeah, there's commercial art.
Thanks, man.
Like I remember a professor at NYU was saying like, yeah, I mean, the pyramids are commercial art. The Sistine Chapel is commercial art. I mean, why do we have these arbitrary distinctions? It doesn't mean because something has a commercial element to it, doesn't mean that it can't qualify as a work of art. So I think even in the gaming world, it's like games like Lumines and things like that, or there's some other, what was that other DS title? There's one that you play like as a jellyfish.
Electroplankton.
Electroplankton. Electroplankton. I love that game. And it was so esoteric. I love that game. It was like being in a trance, like a totally, it was such an awesome game. Electroplankton. I love that game. So thank you for like making the game. I can't wait to see where you go with this next, where the sort of next iteration. I mean, it's just you're doing really cool stuff, and I think
thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Lifting up the sort of like gaming banner to say that no, it can hit these high notes, and it doesn't have to be, mass market stuff, and it can be somewhat niche, and hopefully you get more accolades and more financial attention to just like drive this forward and make another game.
Yeah, I hope I can keep going, keep making games. That's the dream.
Yeah, that is the dream. You're living the dream. Just keep doing what you're doing. It's really it's just great stuff. I love to see it. Thank you so much for connecting with us. I think it's been a real pleasure.
Well, thank you, man. Yeah, thanks for reaching out. It's always fun to talk. So
keep fighting the good fight.
All right. Thanks, Jason.
All right. Cheers, man.
All right.
All right. Be in touch.
Have a good day, man.
Yeah, you too.
All right.
Thanks. See ya.
Bye.